There's a quiet, persistent struggle that shadows some of the most thoughtful minds of our generation. It is a subtle fear that you may have failed before you've even had the chance to truly begin. You glance at the world and notice a timeline that feels out of sync with your own. Around you are peers who seem to have navigated adulthood effortlessly, building careers, families, and social status in ways society equates with success. They moved in straight paths, knowing what they wanted at 20, achieving it by 25, and solidifying it by 30. And then there is your journey. Yours has rarely been linear. It has been a spiral, starting, pausing, and redirecting. You've chased passions with intensity, only to set them aside when the drive or meaning faded. You may have spent years appearing stagnant, producing little that is visible to others, while internally you are navigating complex battles and unraveling structures of thought that remain hidden from the world. Carl Jung, the founder of analytical psychology, would not view your timeline with concern. He would recognize it. He observed that some individuals possess a psychological makeup so intricate, so densely layered with the unconscious material of the collective, that they are naturally unsuited for early, superficial success. To the outside observer, you may seem like a late bloomer or even a failure. Yet, in the deeper, transformative reality of the psyche, something profoundly different is taking place. You are not failing to launch. You are in a period of gestation, one that matches the magnitude of the destiny you are meant to fulfill. An oak tree does not grow at the pace of grass. The reason you have not achieved visible success yet is not that you are broken. It is because you are laying a foundation that early achievers often lack, a foundation strong enough to support a skyscraper rather than a tent. We live in a culture that idolizes the archetype of eternal youth. We celebrate prodigies of 30 under 30 and overnight billionaires. This cultural obsession with speed creates a lens that makes the slow, deep work of the soul appear as laziness. But Jung offered a compelling alternative perspective. He proposed that the first half of life, roughly until age 35 or 40, is primarily a period of preparation, like clearing one's throat before delivering a speech. For the rare personality, the intuitive, the sensitive, the analytical, this early phase is often defined not by achievement but by struggle. This struggle is intentional. It provides a friction necessary to separate your authentic self from the persona society tried to impose. Reflect on your own mind. While others focus on learning the rules of the game and playing by them, you were consumed by the need to understand why the game existed in the first place. This drive for deep understanding often slows external progress. While your peers climb the corporate ladder, you may have lingered at the bottom rung, examining the ladder itself and realizing it leaned against the wrong wall. You have a refined awareness that makes mindless action impossible. You cannot act without first grasping the meaning behind it. In a world that prizes rapid, unquestioned execution, this tendency can make you seem hesitant or indecisive. Yet, Jung would suggest that this hesitation serves a vital purpose. It is your soul protecting you from investing in a life that is not genuinely your own. The risk, of course, is that you begin to see this slowness as a flaw. You notice the gap between your potential and your current reality and feel a deep sense of shame. You question why you cannot be normal, why simple tasks drain you, why you need extensive solitude to recover, and why you experience a weariness that feels ancient. Even without physical exertion, this fatigue arises from processing reality at a higher resolution. You are not merely living, you are decoding. Every interaction, every news cycle, every subtle shift in your environment is information that your psyche must absorb and integrate. You carry the weight of heightened consciousness, and like a high-performance computer running complex simulations, your startup takes far longer than a simple calculator. But once fully online, once you have integrated your shadow and established your footing, your capacity surpasses those who achieve success quickly. Jung famously noted that nature makes no mistakes. If you are built this way, it is because the world needs this type of human. Society is full of individuals who maintain the status quo, follow instructions, and keep the system running. Yet when the system fails, when old frameworks collapse, or when a collective crisis of meaning arises, the early achievers falter because their identities were built on external validation, which can vanish in an instant. This is your moment to step onto the stage. The late success of the rare personality is not simply a delayed version of conventional success. It is a fundamentally different kind of achievement. It is success born from resilience, forged through deep introspection and anchored in self-knowledge that cannot be shaken because it was earned, not handed to you by the world. You claimed it alone in the quiet and the dark. Jung linked this process to what he called individuation. For most people, life is a process of imitation. We mirror our parents, teachers, and culture. But for you, life has been about stripping away. Your 20s and 30s were likely spent losing friends who couldn't understand you, jobs that stifled you, and beliefs that proved to be illusions. This process of subtraction is painful and may feel like regression. In alchemy, however, it is known as the nigredo, the blackening. It is the essential breakdown of the false self. You had to fail at being normal in order to succeed at being yourself. Had you achieved early success, earning the corner office and accolades at 25, you might have cemented a mask, trapping yourself in a persona too small for your soul. By 50, you could have faced a midlife crisis capable of unraveling you. Your apparent failure was actually a safeguard. It kept you adaptable, inquisitive, and hungry for authenticity. Yet the waiting period is a precarious place. It is easy to stagnate there. The boundary between true gestation and mere stagnation is razor thin, and many with your potential get caught living a provisional life. Jung described this as a neurosis of those who are always preparing to live but never fully step into the arena. You tell yourself, one day when I am ready, when I have learned enough, when I am healed enough, I will begin. But that day never truly arrives because readiness is an illusion. The transition from late bloomer to awakened master does not occur through thought alone. It requires a specific kind of action that bridges your inner and outer worlds. Your timeline is shaped by the archetype of the Senex, the wise old man. Even in youth, you may have felt like an old soul, serious, contemplative, and burdened with gravity. This weight is a strength, though in youth it can feel like a burden. While others skim the surface of life, you sank to the depths, yet it is at the bottom where the true treasures are found. The insights, wisdom, and deep understanding of human nature that you have gathered while feeling behind are precisely the assets that become invaluable in the second half of life. As the world shifts into an era of artificial intelligence and automation, the skills that served early achievers, memorization, following instructions, and basic competence, are becoming less relevant. Meanwhile, the strengths of the late bloomer, empathy, pattern recognition, complex synthesis, and spiritual resilience, are emerging as the most valuable currency. You've been playing a long game in a short-term world, and now, at last, the environment is aligning in your favor. To take full advantage of this shift, you must recognize the specific transition point you are approaching. Jung referred to it as the metanoia, a turning of the mind. While it typically occurs between ages 35 and 50, for rare personalities it can happen earlier or later, depending on the depth of one's inner struggle. This is the moment when the energy that was previously directed inward, towards self-analysis and defense, must begin to move outward. It is the instant the chrysalis breaks. The pain you feel now, the frustration of unrealized potential, is not evidence that you have missed your chance. Rather, it is the pressure of the birth canal. You are being compressed because you are too large for the life you currently inhabit. The sense of not fitting in was simply the universe ensuring you never settled into a life too small for your potential. The main psychological barrier between you and your destiny is what Jung described as a challenge of the pure eternus, the eternal child. This does not imply immaturity. In fact, your intellect is likely highly advanced, yet emotionally, part of you resists grounding. You exist in a state of suspended animation, hovering above reality, afraid that committing to one specific path will prematurely close off the infinite possibilities of who you could become. You are in love with potential, and because of this, you struggle with reality. Real life demands compromise, perseverance, and patience. It is often mundane, repetitive, and imperfect. Your mind, however, operates in the realm of the ideal, the perfect, and the absolute. When you attempt to bring your vision into the real world, it feels like a degradation. So you retreat back into clouds of your own mind, where everything remains flawless because nothing has been tested. This is a provisional life. You tell yourself you are merely waiting for the right moment, the right partner, the right opportunity. Yet beneath the surface, a troubling thought begins to emerge. Perhaps you are not waiting for life to begin, but that life is quietly passing you by as you analyze it. This is the crisis point, the moment when even the psychologically resilient often falter. The weight of unrealized potential feels physical, pressing on your chest. You glance at the normal people you once envied for their simplicity and begin to feel a pang of jealousy. At least they are living. At least they are in the arena, while you remain in the stands, analyzing and critiquing the gladiators. But there is a solution. Jung observed that the path is not to conform to societal expectations, becoming dull or compliant. The remedy is work, but not just any work. It is the kind of work that challenges you fully, that forces you to get your hands dirty. It is the work of bringing your intuition down from the heavens and shaping it into tangible reality. This is why so many of you feel a sudden, intense drive to build, to write, to create, or even to train your bodies as you age. Your soul is demanding friction. It is weary of floating in the air and craves the grounding of the earth. This leads to an essential realization. You cannot do this alone. The solitude that once protected you in youth can become a prison in adulthood. You need to connect with others, not to blend into a herd, but to find a true pack. Jung often referred to an aristocracy of the spirit, a quiet network of individuals attuned to these deeper realities. If you recognize yourself in this analysis, if you feel seen for the first time in years, it is likely that you belong to this dispersed tribe. We are bringing together those scattered minds right here. If you want to avoid drifting back into the unconscious routines of daily life and keep this channel as a guiding light in your feed, commit to subscribing now. It is a small gesture, but it signals to your own psyche that you are prioritizing truth over noise. We are building the map you've been searching for, and we need your help to navigate it. By committing to the descent, landing your plane on the challenging terrain of reality, you unlock the most powerful tool in the late bloomer's arsenal, the shadow. For much of your life, you were likely a good person, empathetic, sensitive, perhaps even a people pleaser. You suppress your aggression, ambition, and desire for influence because you were taught these impulses were wrong. You associated power with the corrupt authority figures around you, so you suppress your own drive in a noble attempt to remain harmless. But Jung reminds us, you do not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. To succeed later in life, you must integrate your shadow and reclaim the parts of yourself you abandoned. The ambition you labeled as greed is actually the fuel needed to build your legacy. The anger you fear was destructive is the energy that sets boundaries and prevents exploitation. The late bloomer succeeds because they stop apologizing for their power. When a 20-year-old wields power, it can be dangerous. They haven't yet learned empathy. But you have spent decades cultivating empathy and understanding suffering. You can therefore be trusted with power. When you finally harness your reservoir drive and assertiveness, you will not become a tyrant. You will become a force of nature. You will move with a precision and authority that early achievers cannot match, because their power is rooted in ego, while yours arises from the totality of your being. This integration of the shadow is what gives late success its unique character. It is neither frantic nor desperate. It is formidable. Have you noticed how some older actors, writers, or leaders possess a presence that feels almost gravitational? That is the weight of an integrated shadow. They are not seeking approval or trying to impress. They simply occupy their own space fully. They no longer ask the world for permission to exist. This is the path you are moving toward. The hesitation you felt in youth was your intuition signaling that you weren't yet ready to handle this level of intensity. Had you achieved success at 20, your ego might have inflated dangerously, and you could become addicted to external approval. Now, however, the applause is no longer what drives you. You are motivated by an internal imperative, a responsibility to the talent and potential entrusted to you. Society often interprets the midlife transition as a crisis. When someone leaves a secure job and a stagnant relationship, or finally starts a novel they postponed for a decade, observers whisper they are having a breakdown. Jung offers a different perspective. No, they are having a breakthrough. The walls of persona may be cracking, but only to allow the true self to emerge. Late success is almost always preceded by a period of chaos. If your life currently feels like it's unraveling, take heart. This is the alchemical fire at work. The structures collapsing are those that were too small to contain your potential. You are not dying, you are shedding. Consider the bamboo tree. 4 or 5 years, you water it and nothing seems to happen. It remains a tiny shoot, barely visible above the soil. To an outside observer, it appears to have failed or even died. Yet underground, a vast and intricate root system is spreading, anchoring deeply into the earth, preparing to support a growth that has not yet appeared. Then, in the 5th year, it bursts upward, growing 80 feet in just 6 weeks. Did it really grow 80 feet in 6 weeks, or was it growing 80 feet over 5 years? You are the bamboo. The silence of your past decade was not empty, it was fertile. While others were focused on leaves, you were developing roots. And because of this, when you finally rise, the first strong wind will not topple you. Early achievers often have shallow roots. A single crisis of reputation or finances can undo them. You, however, have already endured the crisis of meaning in the dark. You are anti-fragile. This leads to the unique advantage of life's afternoon. Jung described life as divided into morning, youth, expansion, and ego building, and the afternoon, maturity, contraction, and soul-making. The culture belongs to the morning, loud, bright, and frantic, but the true treasure belongs to the afternoon. Success achieved in the second half of life is sweeter precisely because it is not chased. It is drawn to you. You stop pursuing what runs away and instead become the kind of person who naturally attracts what is meant for them. Desperation fades. You recognize that you have already endured your worst days, faced a void, and survived. What remains to fear? This absence of fear is magnetic. It draws opportunities, resources, and people toward you like a guiding beacon. The final and most profound element of achieving success later in life is the power of synthesis. For years, you may have felt like a collection of disconnected pieces. You possess some knowledge of psychology, a skill in design, a deep understanding of history, and perhaps a fascination with mechanics. To a logical mind, these interests seem incompatible. You may have been criticized as a jack of all trades, master of none. Jung would correct this perspective. He would say, "You are not scattered, you are constellating. You've been gathering the ingredients for a recipe that no one else has ever created." Early achievers specialize. They excel at one narrow skill. The late bloomer, however, integrates. When your moment arrives, it will not resemble a simple, linear promotion. It appears as a sudden, almost geometric alignment of everything you have ever learned. All the seemingly wasted time, abandoned hobbies, and painful detours lock into place, forming a unique competence the world has never seen before. You realize that the periods of depression taught you depth. The isolation developed your vision. The technical skills provided the container. This is your magnum opus, your great work. It is more than a career. It is a full expression of your soul's code. Because it is built from such diverse and authentic elements, it cannot be replicated. You become a category of one. In a world of commodities, you are irreplaceable. This is the moment when Jung's concept of synchronicity begins to flow through your life. Synchronicity is the occurrence of meaningful coincidences that appear unrelated yet are deeply connected. When your inner truth aligns with your external actions, the universe stops resisting and begins to cooperate with you. You meet exactly the right person at a coffee shop. A book falls from a shelf, providing the answer you've been seeking for years. Opportunities emerge seemingly out of nowhere, not because you force them, but because you are finally resonating at the frequency of your destiny. You are no longer swimming upstream. You are the river. The struggle of the first half of life was one of resistance. The success of the second half comes from the power of flow. But this path is not for the faint of heart. You had to walk through the desert, while others rested in comfort. You endured being labeled an outcast and held on to a vision no one else could see. There is a deeper reason for this burden. You are not living solely for yourself. You are likely the cycle breaker of your lineage. Jung believed we inherit the unresolved psychology of our ancestors. The late bloomer is often chosen to metabolize the trauma, fear, and limitations of their family line. You could not succeed early because you were busy clearing the psychic debris of generations. You were carrying the heavy load for your lineage. Now that the cleaning is complete, the path is clear. You are free to run, and when you run for all of them. Your success will vindicate your suffering, proving that the long, dark road was leading somewhere all along. You will stand as living evidence that it is never too late to become who you were meant to be. But vigilance is essential. The old habits of the waiting room are persistent. The pull toward passivity, of analyzing rather than acting, will try to drag you back. You must protect your momentum with everything you have. This creates a new imperative. You can no longer afford to spend energy on anything that does not serve your great work. You cannot tolerate relationships that drain you, habits that numb you, or information that distracts you. Your energy is now your most precious resource, and you must learn to seal the leaks in your vessel. If you still feel drained by toxic people or exhausted by the emotions of others, it is a sign that your boundaries remain porous. We have prepared a detailed guide on identifying and neutralizing these energy drains, specifically designed for empaths and intuitives like you. It should appear on your screen shortly. This is a practical manual for protecting the fire you've worked so hard to kindle. As you look ahead to the years to come, do not look back with regret. Do not envy the sprinters who peaked early or those who found the easy path. They have had their reward. You, however, have something different. You possess the depth of the ocean, the resilience of the ancient redwoods, and a mind sharpened by the whetstone of silence. Your time was never then. Your time is now. You can no longer afford to spend energy on anything that does not serve your great work. You cannot tolerate relationships that drain you, habits that numb you, or information that distracts you. Your energy is now your most precious resource, and you must learn to seal the leaks in your vessel. If you still feel drained by toxic people or exhausted by the emotions of others, it is a sign that your boundaries remain porous. We have prepared a detailed guide on identifying and neutralizing these energy drains, specifically designed for empaths and intuitives like you. It should appear on your screen shortly. This is a practical manual for protecting the fire you've worked so hard to kindle. As you look ahead to the years to come, do not look back with regret. Do not envy the sprinters who peaked early or those who found the easy path. They have had their reward. You, however, have something different. You possess the depth of the ocean, the resilience of the ancient redwoods, and a mind sharpened by the whetstone of silence. Your time was never then. Your time is now. You can no longer afford to spend energy on anything that does not serve your great work. You cannot tolerate relationships that drain you, habits that numb you, or information that distracts you. Your energy is now your most precious resource, and you must learn to seal the leaks in your vessel. If you still feel drained by toxic people or exhausted by the emotions of others, it is a sign that your boundaries remain porous. We have prepared a detailed guide on identifying and neutralizing these energy drains, specifically designed for empaths and intuitives like you. It should appear on your screen shortly. This is a practical manual for protecting the fire you've worked so hard to kindle. As you look ahead to the years to come, do not look back with regret. Do not envy the sprinters who peaked early or those who found the easy path. They have had their reward. You, however, have something different. You possess the depth of the ocean, the resilience of the ancient redwoods, and a mind sharpened by the whetstone of silence. Your time was never then. Your time is now. The curtain is rising.